What if you grew up in a belief system that told you everything around you was an illusion? What if you were told everything that happened to you, from being sick to stubbing a toe to being bullied at school, was your fault for not knowing the truth? What if you were denied even the most basic health care, from pain pills to checkups to vaccinations? How do you unravel yourself from this belief system? And what happens when you do? My name is Hillary Alexander, and this is Leaving Christian Science. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Leaving Christian Science. More stories of people's past histories and current experiences as they unravel Christian Science out of their lives. Today, I have Brianna with me, who's going to tell me her story of growing up in and leaving Christian Science. And we're just going to have a nice chat about all of those things that so few people understand except us. So,
Right.
So welcome. I think
you.
a good place to start is your background, your family history. Who was it that got into it, and were you born in, and that's kind of thing.
Yeah. So I can already feel it. So I'm going to warn everyone ahead of time that I am a crier. I am someone who tears up. And all of this relates to my mom, which, yeah, I'm gonna go as linear as I can. But my mom passed away because, in my opinion, it was because of this freaking religion on June 9th of 2024. So my history is because of her. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. But at the same time, and this is where I'm going to cry, and that's okay. I can talk and cry. And even if I can't talk and cry, if I need to bawl my eyes out for a second, let me do it. It's fine. So I love my mom dearly. And honestly, her side of my family is the one I'm closest to. So I come from a background of divorce, and she is technically my stepmom, but she raised me from when I was 3 years old. She is not my stepmom. She is my mother.
Yeah.
And she is how I got involved in this. So it's like kind of confusing, I guess, when you put it that way. Like everything that you just said was a little triggering, which is totally fine. But how I got into it was because of her. But if I didn't have her, I wouldn't have my lovely family. And I love the people, the very few people who I have in my life and my family. I love them dearly. And it's because of my mom that they're in my life. So there you go. Apparently I'm not crying, I'm just like tearing up. So there we go. So my background. So first of all, I just want to let the world know, let everyone know who might have watched the previous, I guess we're calling it seasons of this, is Sarah season, or not season, Sarah episode 16. She is my cousin. She is my mom's daughter, or not my mom's daughter. That's not how cousins work. She is my mom's sister's daughter. And me and her were not close at the time. So she did not mention me in any of that. All of her cousin and her aunt's daughter, she's talking about my older sister, not me. Because me and her at the time were just not very close. And also she didn't really know, because we weren't close, she didn't know my background in Christian Science. So if you if you've seen that, there is automatically going to be some overlap, just because of some very specific events dealing with my mom. But my full background, and I'm gonna do the whole dear daddy thingy. My whole background starts when gosh, I don't know if I would have been 3 or 4. My parents met when I was 3 years old. Um, and I will say, I am a very religious person. I identify as pagan. I don't identify as Christian Science. I don't. Obviously, that's why I'm here, right? My back. So yeah, I do. I guess I find it important to say that I am still a very religious person. I'm just not a Christian Scientist. I am pagan, or it falls under paganism or whatever. I'm a pagan. But my Christian Science background starts roughly 3 or 4. Um, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. When I met my mom, I knew she was my mom, and I like I was actually, and this is what I said at her memorial service, is genuinely speaking, and I blame the universal energy or whatever does exist on this, is that I was genuinely confused when my dad introduced my mom to me as Susan, or as Sarah put it, Aunt Susie, or Auntie Susie is who my cousins call her, on that side of my family anyway. And I was genuinely confused because I was like, this is my mom. But anyway, so I was introduced to Christian Science by my mom because of my dad marrying my mom. And they got married within, I think, a year of meeting each other or something like that. It worked out. They stuck together until she was gone. I mean, he's still sticking around. I probably shouldn't put this too much on the internet, but whatever. There is an age gap, and that's kind of important because I'm 31 and I've lost my mother. And part of that is Christian Science, and part of that is my dad married someone who was a little older than him. But the death part is definitely a Christian Science death to a T. But how I grew up in it is honestly, my childhood in it was kind of good and bad. So Sunday school, I loved Sunday school. It was amazing. Like I was like this little kid, and in all the other like, or maybe it's just Sarah's video. I don't know whose video says this, but like I think it's kind of like a widespread thing where like it's like, oh my gosh, we have a new one, we have a new little kid here, and like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so special. Like
Yeah,
everyone
you're very
loves me
welcome.
here. Like I'm so special. Like I just have to exist here and I'm great.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
awesome. And so I love Sunday school. My most, I don't know if the word is visceral memories or my most vivid memories. I can imagine the church. Like I really, really actually want to get. I have very positive memories of the church and everything. The original church that I went to anyway. I have very positive memories of it, to the point where like I know that building exists and I want to take a tour of what it looks like now. But basically we went to church every single Sunday from when I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, church, even if there were like I remember there were there were, I'm sure, I know there was at least one Sunday that I missed. There were, I'm sure, some Sundays that we missed or whatever, like life happens kind of thing. But otherwise, we were there every single Sunday. And if we weren't there a Sunday, it was like, oh, where were you last Sunday kind of thing.
And did your dad become a Christian Scientist when he met her?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my thing is, in my opinion, like, heck yeah. But also, so my dad, so I live in the Midwest. And in the Midwest, I'm very hesitant about putting my actual location out there. But where I live, your dad does not get full custody of you. My dad, my father, my birth father, got full custody of me at age 3 or 4. I know for sure when they were married, he had full custody of me for sure. And I had visitation with my birth mom every other weekend for a while, and then that changed to once a month because that was bad over there. I mean, Christian Science was a blessing compared to what my biological siblings, because my birth mom had kids with my stepdad. But anyway, so my, for all intents and purposes, as far as like, and that's where my story I think is very unique because I live in a state where your dad does not get full custody of you, and thank God he did, or thank the universe, or whatever you want to think that he did. It's because of him getting full custody of me that I'm not sorry to any part of my family that could possibly be watching this, but I have siblings that are really, really suffering, in my opinion, are really suffering. And I have like, and I think that that is genuinely and I have talked to one of them about it a little bit, about like the difference in because I have a specific sibling, and I don't think I want to name names because I think since this is like on YouTube, I haven't asked for her consent on this. But I do have a specific sibling that kind of helped me become under the custody of my dad, which was very important. And he was so afraid of losing me that if it came down to it, it was mainly colds. But if it came down to it, I was going to the doctor. But otherwise, no, Christian Science all the way. So whether he was all in or all out, I honestly don't know. I want to say he was like mostly in, but when it comes to medication, he's always kind of been iffy at best on that. And these days is a different story. I don't really know where he stands on the religion. I've asked him. I don't know. He believes in some stuff, and that's all I know. That's all he'll really say. So I don't know. But as far as me, as far as I'm concerned, we were all in. Um, because basically, when it comes, so yeah, when it comes to like like when it comes to the doctor care and stuff. So like, yes, I'm sorry, my brain is kind of jumping around a bit because like Sunday school, I do have some very specific memories that I do want to share that are positive. But as far as answer as to whether he was all in or not, I'm assuming he was basically. I mean, he did become like a second reader. I want to say he was the first reader at some point, so he had to have been like as in as you can get. I mean, and I don't think he can be on medications or anything if you're. So I think he must have been all in. I
Yeah,
think.
that's a good question. I don't know if there's like rules about being a reader and what you can and can't do. I
Yeah,
don't
because
know
he was
the answer to
definitely
that.
yeah, and he got accepted into the church. Funny story, short tidbit is I have a tote box of elementary school stuff. It's like elementary and like preschool stuff that my parents have given to me. Like a couple of years, I don't even know how many years ago, a few years ago, not very long ago. And one of the things as I was rifling through this is me scarily good at writing. My mom was so right growing up that I'm not trying to like, you know, put myself out there, but I am pretty good at writing. But like, I have this like this thing of I can't remember exactly what piece of paper it's on, but my dad got accepted into the church. It must have been when I was in elementary school. He like got accepted into it, and it was a really big deal to everyone.
Hmm.
And I wrote that down. Little kid me wrote down my dad got accepted into the church, and my mom says it's a big deal, and I think it is too. And I'm like, awesome. And
Yeah,
I was like, I think that's great.
yeah.
So yeah, my church experiences, um, I guess just real briefly from like the church Sunday school little kid perspective is one, everyone knew my family, specifically my uncle Jim. Yeah, Jim, not Jimmy, Jim. My uncle Jim, he was a really good singer. And when he sang, it was like I think it was even up in church. He was like famous for it basically at the church. And when he would come down to Sunday school, I was so excited because I'm like, that's my Uncle Jim. And like he would like be a part of the Sunday school kids singing the hymns. And I was like so proud that, oh my gosh, this is my uncle. But he was such a good singer. It was incredible. So that was one experience I remember. And then the first experience I remember is like probably like being a little kid talking about no wait, I don't know if I feel like Noah's Ark didn't exist for us. It's like Noah and the Ark didn't happen because I know the first testament didn't happen, but the second testament did happen.
Yeah, I've had people ask if I believed in Noah's Ark, and I'm like, honestly, I don't remember. I don't know if it was supposed to just be like a
I don't think we
parable
did.
to us
I think my
or
mom was
not.
like, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I wonder. I know the first testament didn't happen, but the second testament did because Adam and Eve aren't real, and I do believe that to a T. So whatever, I do believe that. And like when I was a little kid, I mean, I was all in because my parents are always right, right? Like that's
Yeah.
like our experience is like your parents are right. So, but like my favorite memories of church, this is hilarious. Are we had these white round tables, and we must have been like bored or something. I don't know. It was me and one other kid, and I was like somewhere between 3 to 5 or something like that, whatever. Because you had so we had a really big church, like physically a large church for the congregation that we had. It was a huge church for such a small group of people. And so we had three classes. We had my class, and then like the one of the upper classes, and then like the upper class. And thinking about all of this is in elementary school. So I have no idea what the heck they meant by these three like upper classes. Cause it's like, how old, like what's the age difference? Cause like that's kind of weird. But the first class, I remember I watched a kid, you know, those like the pencils. So like, I don't know, like when I was in elementary school in the 90s or early 2000, or not, I wasn't in elementary school in the 90s. Well, I was, but early 2000s. I'm a 90s kid, early 2000s, late 90s kind of thing. We had this like a pencil dispenser that you put a quarter in and it'd give you a pencil, and the pencil had a design they could very easily scrape off or rub off. Well, in Sunday school, we had these pencils that my now there's a gnat here, so sorry if I wave off the screen. Or I guess I could blow at it. Anyway, so we had these pencils, and I saw this kid just like rubbing it on this white round desk, and I'm like, that seems like fun. Slash, I'm a follower, like I'm a follow the leader person at the time. So I guess this is what I'm supposed to do, right? And my Sunday school experience that day was rubbing this pencil, and then our teacher, who was some lady, was like, you know, you shouldn't be destroying those. I'm like, I thought it was artistic. I thought it was creative. Like, I didn't know. Like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know. I thought it was being so creative by like taking like doing that. But yeah, I remember being like having very repetitive Sunday school stories. And my mom being like, "So what did you learn today?" It's like, I don't know, David in a burning bush, or wait, Moses in a burning bush. You know, someone in a pit of lions. Like, I don't know, mom.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, "Did you learn about this in Sunday school?" It's like, yeah, again, yes. And then I do remember the middle class being a little bit more interesting because we had like a whole between 3 to 5 of us. And there was one lady that kind of like took over a whole lot. Didn't really like her very much, but that was more of like a conversation thing. And as I got older in Sunday school, it became more of like a conversation versus I'm going to teach you this, and this is what's real. It became more of like a conversation to the point where in the last class that I had, which was in a secluded room, the rest of these were just very separated areas, basically. The last one had a room. I do remember having a room with like 2 doors or something like that. In that class, my most memorable memory was must have been talking about an Easter egg hunt, because we talked about how we found like is either $1, or no, it wasn't $1. It was like $10 or something like that. And as a kid, it's like, oh my gosh, like remember when we used to get $1 in the Easter eggs, and now it's like 10? Oh my gosh, you can do so much with $10. It's like little kid me. Man, I wish, you know. But those are my positive experiences of Sunday school. It was amazing. And like I remember at one point I kind of like helped lead the hymn sing, which was amazing. So those are my early like childhood, like kind of amazing experiences, like early childhood experiences of Sunday school. None of it was my early childhood experiences of Sunday school specifically were not bad at all.
Yeah.
They were pleasant. They were the things that I miss about it, to be honest.
Yeah. And you had mentioned when we talked earlier that in your home too, like the environment with your mom was very positive. Like it sounded like she didn't fall into the usual Christian Science trap of just denying all of your experiences and shutting you down. Like you had mentioned that she actually let you feel your feelings and was
Yeah, so
like,
I was so yeah. So I'm sorry, I kind of like interrupted you there. I've been so confused for like the entire of last season, because everyone's like, yeah, I wasn't allowed to feel anything. I'm like, where is that coming from? And I think where that's coming from is that, and this is where I believe my mom like none other, and she did kind of like pick and choose a little bit. And I think one of the things that she picked and chose was that, because she saw, like, I remember her saying that she saw her parents do XYZ things when she was growing up, and she's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that with my kids.
Mm.
And so I don't know if that was part of it or not, but it must have been, because I know my cousin Sarah, who came from her sister, my mom's sister, she's my cousin. So my aunt Val is my cousin Sarah, episode 16's mom. My aunt Val's her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so they obviously grew up with the same parents, and she had a completely different emotional experience as a kid.
Yeah.
Like when I listened to her thing, I'm like, oh my gosh, like no wonder why you're so freaking traumatized by some of this stuff. Like, oh my gosh, like you weren't allowed to feel feelings. Are you serious? Like, and my mom, on the other hand, was like, you got to talk everything out. Like, you always need to talk everything out. You
That's
need.
great.
She didn't really say like feel your feelings per se. She was more like a talker. She is a talker. And yeah, thank you, mom, because I became you. And I love it. She was a crier. She was a talker. She was like, you could give her like, it was when I was a little kid. If I gave her a card that said "I love you, mom," she'd be like, "Oh my god, thank you so much," or something like that. Like she was a crier. That was probably a bad example. I apologize to my mom's ghost, because I do believe that exists. If I totally messed that one up, but no, it was beautiful. She was so emotional. I'm sorry, but everyone has emotions, including men, because guess what? Happy, sad, angry, frustrated, calm, all of these are emotions, not just sad or depressed. All of these are emotions. Happiness is an emotion. I just hate the whole like, you're so emotional thing. It's like, and you're not, because you're getting angry, which is an emotion, or and you're not because you're happy, which is an emotion. They're all emotions. But yeah, like as far as feeling my feelings goes, yeah, I mean, literally, I do remember one time that I misunderstood my mom, and I don't know, this is probably not very good at all, but like it was a Sunday. I do remember it being a Sunday because my dad was not very happy with me. That okay, now I have a cramp. Maybe I should not cross my legs. I do have like physical health issues, so I do have to move around a little bit as I'm sitting, because I hurt basically, and I did take Tylenol before this, so I should be good. Which I do take medicine, so we got that part, but we're gonna get there, I'm sure. My mom, oh yeah, my mom and emotions. So I remember one Sunday she told me that moms can tell when their kids are not doing well. I thought she said moms can tell what is wrong with their, like, wait, no. She said moms can tell what is wrong with their kids. And what she meant by that was moms can tell when something is wrong with their kids, not what is wrong with their kids. So I sat there thinking, if I just sit here and cry until my mom gets back, I didn't know that my mom was going to church. I didn't know that me and my dad were staying home. There was like some like planned thing where she was going to church and we were home. I didn't know that. I didn't know that's where she was going that day. And I didn't know where she was going. So that was a really weird day for me in general. But like she said, and I was really upset. And I'm guessing that's probably why, like something must have happened and I was really upset. And that's probably why I didn't go to church that day. And my dad sat behind, I won't say babysitting me, but he's my dad. He didn't babysit me. He fathered me. But bless his heart, because I was at either the living room window or my bedroom window, and she said that, as you know, basically as long as like it would like, or like as long as I had the emotions or whatever, that she knew what it was. So I sat there and I just cried and I cried and I cried and I cried, and my dad was like, "You are not crying for an hour." And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute, an hour? Mom went to church?" Like in my brain, I'm like, "Mom went to church and we didn't go with? Why? Why? I want to go to church." But I don't know if I said that. But in my brain, I was like, "I miss church. No." So like, but what she meant was moms know what's wrong with their kid, or like when something's wrong, like going wrong with their kids. Not, she's a mind reader and she knows exactly what's wrong.
Yeah.
And what was wrong
It's
at the
not
time was I was
magical.
missing her. I was missing her. That was what was wrong. But like my dad was like, "You were not crying for an hour," and I'm like, "Thank you. I thought I was supposed to. I thought those were the instructions I was just given. Was cry, because when you come back, then I'll know what's wrong with you." So yes, I was allowed to feel my feelings. which is
Yeah,
good.
that's so important. So important. So, was there a point in your childhood where you started to question, or did that come later?
You know, kind of. Okay, childhood, generally childhood is high school. Yeah, yeah. No, high school kids are children. Yes, yes, that is a fact. Sorry. My On a side note, my sister works at a daycare slash preschool, and when I run it personally, when I run into like the average like cashier who might be like 18 or 16, it's like, wow, you look like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when you say childhood, like when as a child, I'm thinking like elementary, I must be 5 years old, but no, like anything like basically under 19 or under
Yeah,
18.
or even a
Um,
young adult, you know. I'm just curious
yeah,
when that started to happen for you.
yeah. So I went to a camp called Camp Cedars, and I'm sure you've heard of it.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's at least one person on the last season who went there.
yeah.
I went there 4 years. I never got my 5 year thing because they gave necklaces out. I might have gotten a 3 year thing, but I don't remember standing in front of that. Maybe I do. I don't know. They had okay. So sorry. At the camp, they actually gave like a reward for every consecutive year that you went, and you had to do it for I think like I want to say it was like 3, 5, 10, 15, but it might have just been 5, 10, 15, 20. I want to say three was in it, but if three was in it, then I would have gotten one. I would have stood on stage, and like accepted this necklace, which I feel like I remember doing, but I have no idea, and I don't have the necklace, so I don't know. But or if I do, I don't know if I do.
So
But that would have been
were you a
so yeah.
teenager when you went or younger?
Well, so um I guess the questioning part and the going to camp part are technically two different things, but and that's kind of like non-linear right then and there. So I don't know if you want me to start from my first Camp Cedars experience, which was really weird. I will tell you that. And then my like kind of I like later on when I actually did start questioning, I don't know if you want me to do the start questioning thing or to talk about Cedars because Cedars, my first experience there, I had a huge medical problem that they
Okay.
dealt with so strangely.
Yeah, talk
But
about that.
then, okay, because then that's more linear anyway.
Uh-huh.
So basically, I was in the Compound Idea program, I believe is what it's called, and that is when I was in middle school or I was like just before. It was either between seventh and eighth grade or eighth to ninth, and I think it's between seventh and eighth grade, because I went there for 4 years, and I think after you graduate high school is when you would become a camp counselor, which I never did. So as much as like sophomore year or junior year or freshman year when I was like at like the camp, I was like, ooh, I want to like be here forever kind of thing. I loved the camp. But my first year there, so a little bit of background on me with this because it's very important regarding safety and my safety at the camp, basically, because my safety at the camp, I was not safe at the camp.
Mm.
And in elementary school, I went to a camp called Horse Camp. I don't know what it was called, if that was actually the name of it or not, but it was a camp where it was like 1 week of, oh, and this was a medical experience too. 1 week of they train you or teach you or whatever how to do everything with a horse from grooming to, well, I don't know about the changing of the hooves or the horseshoes. I don't think I learned that, but I did learn how to brush a horse. I learned how to ride a horse bareback, mount, like saddle. I learned how to trot, gallop. I learned how to guide the horse. I learned all these things. I learned what you do if you're in a bunch of trees and you have to have a helmet on in your gear. If you have a bunch of trees around you, you do this thing and you duck and you like guide the horse in a specific way. I was like taught all of these things, which came in super handy for Camp Cedars because my very first year I was there, we had some choices. I want to say might have been water skiing, something else, and something else. I don't know. I loved horses, so I went with the horse one. And so I know what I'm doing with horses. I don't need any lessons, but they, give you your basics. They don't give you enough. I'll tell you that. Like they did
Mm.
not give you enough. They did not give you enough safety information. And they weren't being safe with us to begin with at all. And I caught on to that very, very quickly. Thank freaking God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, because um I had a really bad medical experience at Camp Cedars. And it was, and because of my dad, I will say, so I grew up mostly with not medications. If I had a bad cold, my dad would step in within like a few days and be like, okay, we're getting you to the doctor, we're getting you on cold medication. But that was it. I didn't have pain meds that I can remember. I didn't have anything else. I did not have ibuprofen in the house, which, by the way, ibuprofen, if you have gut issues, don't take it because it can strip your gut. So don't do that. Tylenol can strip your liver, but it's better than ibuprofen, I guess. Tylenol is what I use now, but I didn't have any of that growing up at all. I didn't have anything. We had ice. I had an ice pack. My leg and my foot hurt constantly, and I always had like an ice pack in bed. And that was about it. But I didn't have much of anything else. Anyway, so I'm on this like horse uh adventure, I guess we can call it, whatever, where you have a line of horses and you're going through trees. And in my mind, I'm like, we have a line of horses with a bunch of kids and like one, maybe two camp counselors, and we're going through a bunch of trees. And these horses are getting way too close to each other. In my brain, I'm like thinking this. I'm like, what are we doing, you guys? Like you've got to have a plan because these horses, they're not going to be okay. And they're not going to be okay very, very soon. And they weren't. And in my mind, I'm like, all right, just follow the leader because that you're out of camp. You can't speak your mind. You can't step out of you can't say, hey, separate us a lot more than this. And also, why are we in trees? This is gonna freak the horses out. Like,
Yeah.
can't do that. You gotta shut your mouth and like sorry. I don't like that I said that. Anyway, that's fine. It's okay. Whatever. So I'm thinking ahead of time, like in kind of in the moment as is like it's kind of like a car crash where you're like boom, like event, but it's like actually whoosh kind of thing. So it dawns on me, my horse is way too close to the horse in front of me, and I'm just following the leader, and I'm like, oh no, this cannot be good because horses don't like being crowded. They don't like being crowded. They don't like being spooked. You don't want to do that. You don't want to get a bunch of horses in some trees and like say, "How about it, you guys?" And like, let's go on a horse adventure. If you're gonna do that, you might want to have like, I don't know, however many of us, like, let's say you have like 10 kids. You might want to have at least 4 adults, like maybe an adult per 2 kids with 2 horses or something like that, and like separate us out a lot. They didn't do that. And so I'm just like following leader. And I noticed my horse gets a little too close to the other horse. And I want to say it was my left leg that hit it or that got hit or whatever. But basically what happened was I'm on this horse and I the horse uh got like the horse that my horse was behind got spooked by my horse and kicked
Mm.
me and the horse, but me. And my horse took off, just took off. And I'm like, okay, this is where my horse camp training comes in. So I literally, I'm like, okay, I know exactly how to stop this. I know exactly what to do. And as I am doing what I know that I need to do, because by the way, you can't just be like on a horse. That's not okay for the horse. You have to do these things like gently, but like also assertively. Like you do have to do a big mix of both, like pull back on the reins. I forget the actual command for it, but there's commands that I knew at the time anyway. And there's like a bunch of tricks that you can do. And I knew what to do. And it was like basically duck and then do all of these commands with a horse to get the horse to come to a complete stop. Meanwhile, camp counselor's like, stop your horse, stop your horse, stop your horse, stop your horse. And in my brain, I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, I cannot stop my horse while I have someone yelling at me, stop my horse. I know how to actually do this. You clearly did not teach any of us horse safety. You didn't do any of that. You actually put us in a very dangerous situation, hence why my leg can't work right now, which we figure out later. And so, yeah, so I'm dashing through the woods, quite literally, on I want to say a one horse open sleigh, but like there was no sleigh involved. I was just on a horse. I'm dashing through the woods, and I do get my horse to come to a complete stop. I can't really remember a whole lot other than next scene is I'm at the fancy place. Everyone knew about it but me. It's like the place that it's like a little cabin that like take care of sick people, basically, or sick people, you know, whatever they want to think. And I was still part of the camp at this time. They actually like asked me, "Hey, do you want to participate in this activity? Do you want to participate in that activity?" They like kind of made me participate in the activities. So what had happened is I I never really got any answers, but I either broke my leg and was on crutches and miraculously everything was fine, or I fractured or bruised the bone. They think, or I was told that I like bruised the bone. I don't really know, but it hurt like hell. So I believe I must have still been on the horse, honestly, because I was on something. So I must have still been on the horse at this point. I don't know. And I was told by the camp counselor and or by the camp director, I want to say his name was Warren something, but I could be completely off. So the camp director, like the big dude, is involved in this at this point. He's like, "Hey, can you get off your horse?" And meanwhile, they're like, "So we're gonna take you to the hospital, and you know why?" And I'm like, "Yes, liability purposes, blah 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 blah." And like, yeah, yeah. They're like, "Okay, so you understand like why you're going to the hospital, right? It's not because we don't believe in Christian Science." I'm like, "Yes, it's liability." Like, and I was a kid saying this crap.
Wow.
Yeah, like I was a kid, like I'm like, yeah, liability because blah 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 blah. Like you can't get sued or what the fuck ever. Like you have to like take me to the ER, and it's like, internally, I'm like, please take me to the goddamn ER. Like I need to go to the ER. Like you better be taking me there, you guys. Um, yeah, they say, "Hey, can you get off your horse?" No, my foot, my whole entire leg over here hurts like hell. I just got kicked by a horse, you guys. Like I know I didn't react like that, but I was probably like crying and like, no, I can't walk. And so they like kind of grab me and like they take me to a hospital nearby. I don't know. They asked the camp counselor, like, I remember going to Sonic and like, she's like, "Hey, do you like, what do you want? Do you want anything?" I'm like, "I don't know. What am I allowed to get?" She's like, "I don't know. What are you going to actually finish?" I'm like, "Well, thank you for that." So that's fantastic.
Thanks for your compassion here.
Yeah. And so I went to the hospital there. I wasn't there for very long. I don't even think they took x-rays. Like, I don't remember being wheeled off to like an x-ray or anything.
Huh.
I remember like, I don't know what happened because I remember sitting in a room and maybe that's repressed memories for you or something. I don't know. I remember sitting in a room and eventually leaving. And I remember it must have been like a religious organization because I remember some like pastor dude came in to comfort us. And the lady immediately was like, "Nope, bye bye." And I'm like, "Okay, he seemed nice, but whatever."
Yeah.
So that was my first like experience at Camp Cedars, and I still loved the camp. I mean, um, and I think my foot must have been just like a bad, like a bruised bone or like fracture or something, because I think I was on crutches there. But like I remember doing like the water skiing part was like sometime after that, and I wasn't allowed to do that because the camp counselors, like I told them, because they're like, "Hey," because they put a band-aid on it on whatever part was bleeding, I guess, and that was that basically. And then I think I slept in the cabin, that one special cabin, for the rest of the time while participating in the activities, because I do remember being on a boat, water skiing, and I didn't have the proper clothes on. And I'm like, "Oh, this looks like fun. I could do this." And then they walkie-talkied each other and like, "Yeah, no, you're not. You're not supposed to take that band-aid off." And I'm like, "Why would I need to take the band-aid off to learn water skiing? Like, that doesn't make sense." But okay. I mean, I didn't have a swimsuit on, so that's probably part of it. But like, because they asked, "Are you sure you don't want to water ski? Are you sure you don't want to water ski?" At the time, I was like, "You guys, my leg." And then I was there and I felt fine. So I don't really know what happened there. But that was my first like experience at Camp Cedars. Didn't question it then. Now, when I was in high school at Camp Cedars, I do remember so what I can't remember what they call it exactly. They might still have it on their website. I'm betting they do. I can't remember what they call it, but it's the high school version of the compounded data program. So basically, you do everything, including this very, in my opinion, traumatizing solo time where they drive you out into the middle of nowhere and they leave you there for not a non-set amount of time and you're supposed to like write a letter to yourself and just like think on things and like probably read the lesson or just think on life. It's supposed to be this like meditative experience. My first experience doing it, I was completely traumatized, to be honest.
Hmm.
But then after like going there, I was like, okay, I know what's coming up today. And that was like the one of the dreaded days, other than high ropes was really dreaded. But I really wanted to do it at the same time. That's complicated. But like, so my first experience where I was like, oh, that's weird, is two things. One, I think this might have been in the same year. I'm not sure. One is they had a like science person, I guess. I don't freaking know, probably not, come in and say, here's how we know that we are nothingness. If you take the atoms or whatever they are, if you take the atoms and you that are like floating, because apparently, and I don't know a lot about science, but I was taught about this in school. So I assume this is accurate, and maybe this isn't. Maybe this is complete BS from everyone. But I guess our actual atoms are like floating like a mile away from each other per cell or something, or like per atom in our body. I don't know. So because I was staying on science class, I don't know. And we'll get to that later. But he said because of that, our entire body fits on the tip of a sewing needle, and that's why we are nothingness. That's why this is nothing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why haven't I been taught that in school?
Yeah. Why am I not on the tip of a needle right now? Like, what are
Yeah,
you talking
yeah. I was
about?
like, that's weird. But my for realsies one was there were kids whispering. There were kids whispering. The first like real true questioning, and it didn't even dawn on me. It was just like, well, that was weird. And that's they're wrong. Is there were these kids without the camp counselors around. So basically, in the high school version, you have the boys in one cabin, the girls in another. And I'm pretty sure that we had indoor plumbing and they had outdoor plumbing, so that was great. And then you have this main like house, basically. Honestly, it was I think a house. But you have this main huge building, and the top floor is where like you like prep meals together or whatever, and like do some stuff together. And the bottom floor is your chill zone. So we had like I think there was a foosball table down there. I want to say there was a pool table down there. There was a bunch of stuff. There was like either a long L-shaped couch or a few couches. And I remember being on a couch, and there was like one of the camp counselors had brought his guitar, and I was like, ah, damn, next year I need to bring my guitar, and then I did. But anyway, so and like I remember one year there was this guy there who like was like super into jewelry making, and he had his like jewelry kit there because we were allowed to bring things to do, but we weren't allowed to do them. We were allowed to do them like as assigned according to the itinerary or whatever. And during one of these things, I'm assuming all the camp counselors were like upstairs or something, because I heard something about there's a lot of incongruencies in Christian Science and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, wait, what? And like,
Whoa.
they're here. And I'm like, okay, my bad. What the fuck did I just witness?
You just peeked under the curtain for a minute.
Yeah, I'm like, what just happened? Because other people were cluing into this, and I still wasn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of weird, but like, nah, they're not. Nah, I can't be right. They're clueless. They're clueless like everyone else is who doesn't believe in this shit. And so that like that was my first like, why would they be saying that there's incongruencies in this? There's not. Everything is right. My mom's right. Because her parents are always right. My mom's always right. And so like it was kind of like a mixture of like that was weird, but also I didn't really believe it at the time. I was clueless about this religion being basically as I would say, a serial killer until my mom passed away. I was clueless about it until then. And my cousin, bless her heart, like I think it was like a couple of weeks after the passing or something, was like, you seriously thought your mom was going to live until 120? I am sorry, Sarah. I don't mean to sound like I'm not trying to like talk shit on you or anything like that. It was just like, yeah, like, of course it did,
Mhm.
because my mom knows everything. But my middle school stuff, someone just asked me, hey, what religion are you? I was like, oh, Christian Science. And I'm like, oh, Scientology? You mean Tom Cruise? I'm like, no, no. And my mom like kind of coached me on like, okay, you're gonna get probably asked these questions at some point in time, and
Yeah.
here's how to do them. And I'm like, this is weird, but okay. And so I'm like, no, it's not Tom Cruise, it's not Scientology. And they're like, okay, so what is it? And I'm like, I believe in God. I don't know. And like something about like I don't know if I had told them that I wasn't allowed to take medications because I know that was like a hush hush thing. So I don't think I did because I know that I think that was like very much like a hush hush, like shh, we don't do that. Like I think that might have been my dad maybe instilled like upon me like, hey, we don't want to let people know that you don't take medications because then I could get taken away from him from custody.
Yeah. Yeah,
Birth
I had
mom.
that
So,
too. Yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah, my mother was afraid if people knew that, I wasn't getting any medical attention, that I would get taken away. That was a big fear that she put in me. So it was always like, well, don't talk about that part.
Oh, did you say your mother or your brother?
My mother.
Oh, I thought you said brother. Okay, gotcha. Your mother. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, that might be a bit of a red flag, but okay.
Yeah.
Like as a
Exactly.
parent, it's like if I'm doing something that might get my kid taken away, like that's
Maybe you should look at that.
yeah, like okay, well, whatever. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like that sucks. That's not okay.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, it was basically that, and then like I remember in eighth grade, I want to say it was that it was the most, and this is like where like Sarah, I rewatched her video like last night slash I think a little bit this morning, to get a refresher on some of the things because some of the things, especially towards the end, are gonna be very very similar, especially with my mom and stuff and her mom and stuff, like very very similar. Um, but and one of the consistencies is that there was this like human growth and development class, or it wasn't called that. It was called something else. Maybe it was called that. I don't know. Bless my mom's heart. I knew she was trying to do the right thing. Um, I want to say the teacher was called Mr. Rice, I think, because I remember that being a very interesting and unique name. But it was this like human class where you supposed to learn about diseases. You know how that goes. So basically, sorry, my brain is like now like also wanting to talk about my like science class that has nothing to do with that, and also has nothing to do with anything at all because I wasn't opted out of anything of my I wasn't opted out of my seventh grade science thing. I don't think I was opted out of my eighth grade, like not even science thing, just like generic class that everyone had to take. And I wasn't opted out of the entire class, just this one assignment. And this one assignment was to research A to Z's.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, would have that come in handy because I'm sure someone had cancer, right? Someone had cancer, someone probably had diabetes, someone probably had, something that I have, I'm sure. Because I am a pre-diabetic. So I mean that would have been nice to know. But yeah, so they're like, okay, we're gonna do this research paper on diseases, and my mom was like immediately like, I'm contacting the teacher. You are not doing this. I'm like, oh, no. And guess what disease I got? Stretching.
Stretching?
Exactly.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly. And so she's like, okay, you're gonna do your like poster board and everything on stretching and like how to stretch as a disease. And I'm like, I
Huh.
am gonna get so, oh my god, this is embarrassing. Like I'm gonna get like so made fun of during the class. Like literally during the class, I'm gonna get made fun of.
So you
Okay.
got stuck having to do a presentation on stretching instead
Yes.
of an actual disease,
Yes.
which
And
is
I
embarrassing. Yeah.
dreaded the day. I dreaded it so much because, and I had to sit out for the rest of it too. I don't know where I sat, but I wasn't allowed to listen. And my
Wow.
turn came up, and I was like, okay. And it's like, all right, my disease is stretching. And I heard at least one classmate go, stretching is not a disease. And the teacher was like, shh. And I was like, thank you, teacher. But also, I don't remember much of it. I think I was like, how to stretch. This is how to stretch.
Yeah. And did that become like a bullying point for you?
I mean, in the class for sure. But beyond that, I don't know. I just know
Mm.
beyond that, I was weird. I was the weird one after
So
that.
word got around. Yeah.
I was weird. I was in this weird religion that I like didn't want to talk about. And like I just like I got to a certain point with all of this that I didn't want to talk about it with anyone and like anything. And like I know for instance, most recently actually after my mom's passing is when Alyssa, my best friend slash now sister, I mean we've been siblings probably for like ever, but like I mean, we're like siblings at this point. Um, and you know, hopefully everyone understands what I mean by that. But like, yeah, chosen sibling, chosen family, basically. But I don't know. I don't know. In my opinion, the universe chose us to be with each other as siblings. Um, but yeah, like, so she told me because I was like, did you not know like any of this as a kid? And she was like, well, I knew that you had a weird religion and I just didn't want to pray too much. I was like, aw, but I wanted you to because I thought that she was like, you know what, I'm not gonna ask about this shit because this is weird. And like she was like trying to respect the fact that this was weird for me. And
Yeah.
she didn't want to like screw up my like life or like my mind or intelligence or like she didn't want to screw up with any of that. So I very much do appreciate um all of that at this point. But at the same time, I was like, why are you not asking about this? We're best friends. Like, come on, like why don't you ask about me? Like, what? I just didn't want to talk about religion because I knew I was a weirdo and that makes me want to cry. Um yeah, I was the odd one out.
Yeah.
I was the odd one out. And I'm glad I didn't grow up under Catholic or under like I don't know about Lutheran. I had my other best friend, and I'm sorry to put this in quotes, but she was not a good influence on me at all. She was terrible. But she was Lutheran, and yeah, like she also was like super like her religion was super like anti LGBT, like just a bunch of stuff, and like I do identify under the LGBT spectrum. So like that became like kind of an issue because it's like cool the heck.
Was there a moment at which, being in the LGBTQ spectrum and Christian Science kind of collided? Did that ever happen where it became an issue, or was it just sort of a non?
Oh, actually, that reminds me. I don't know why that reminds me. I'm going to come right back to that. That reminds me. You said that there was a moment of questioning, that there was a moment of super duper questioning. And I want you to keep that thought on your mind because I do want to answer that. But the moment of super duper questioning was when I was in a senior in high school, and everyone is supposed to be good, right? Everyone is all good. And I straight up, okay, so um, bless her heart. If you ever see this, I love you. I love you as a person. You probably don't even remember this, honestly. But my Sunday school teacher was also my orchestra director at my school.
Hmm.
It was so weird. It was so coincidental. And that was why my mom wanted me to go with orchestra because I was in orchestra and band up until she was like, hey, I want you to make a choice and I want to be orchestra. I'm like, okay, I'll do orchestra. And I like both. I mean, whatever. But she didn't want me to like have to go through like the hassle of like the marching band and stuff. I'm like, I could have probably been fine with that. I don't know if like maybe orchestra and band practiced at the same time or something. Maybe they did. I don't know. Either way, I ended up in orchestra. And my orchestra director, teacher, um, there's a word for it. Um, conductor, right? That's what they do. They conduct.
Mhm.
Yeah, conductor. Um, she was also my Sunday school teacher. And I had a classmate at the school who also was, when we had moved, we had also moved churches, physical churches at this point. And so he was my classmate at church. And so, like, there was one day where, and so, like, at that church, her mother taught her kids in like the the smaller kids one, because there were two classes. There was our class and their class. Her mom taught her kids, and then she taught me and this person named Gavin. And he was amazing. He was quiet and like amazing. I mean, not like quiet as in like that's why you were amazing, Gavin, but like quiet and amazing as in like I wish I would have gotten to know him better. Slash, if you ever see this, I wish I could get to know you better because you were amazing. And like, yeah, like me and him bonded over Rubik's Cubes and like we were Rubik's Cubes nerds and everything. But the moment of questioning was, I was like, okay, Hitler. So everyone's good. How about Hitler? And there was like a moment of silence. And then she was like, everyone is born good. And I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I saw that. I saw the hesitation. I didn't say that, but it's like I saw that hesitation. And I'm sorry, Debbie, if you ever see this, I am so, so sorry. You probably don't remember this at all. And she was at my mom's memorial service. And oh my gosh, she is such a kind, wonderful, wonderful person. She is just one of the few people who just got under the trap of all of this. She is such a wonderful, wonderful lady. And she just got under the trap. And me and her, like, senior year, and oh yeah, the LGBT stuff. So like, um, that's kind of confusing. So like, I've identified, whatever. I've identified as like everything under the spectrum, basically. And I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's been a weird journey. When I was in high school, I thought I was a lesbian. I am born female, and then when I was a senior in high school, I thought I was female to male transgender, and therefore and my dad initially didn't have the best reaction, whatever. But later on, he came around. My mom was like on my side with all of this. Like when I came out as gay, she was on my side. When I came out as transgender, she was on my side. In fact, she was the one who took me to get a haircut because I was like, well, I have to have short hair. And like, my dad knew about it, but didn't. And I had a hoodie. And this has nothing to do with like Christian Science at this point, but I had a hoodie and like, I don't think it does. I don't know. And, and he's like, okay, let me see it. And I showed him my hair and I don't think he had much reaction, to be honest. But when it came to Christian Science and everything, the thing I find interesting is as far as medical intervention. And this is when it becomes into adulthood, basically, because I transitioned as a senior, female to male. And my mom fought this, like with the not fought with the school, but I should say worked with the school. We had a principal there who was amazing. She wanted someone to watch over me because they didn't want me to transition in high school because they're like, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna become like Matthew Shepard. You're gonna get killed. You're gonna like you know what happens to these people, right? They get beat up and they get killed. And I'm like, it's fine. I'm going to be fine.
The school was saying that?
No, my parents.
Your parents were concerned about your safety?
Yeah, very much so. And reasonably so. So my mom was like super, super on board. And which is interesting because with my transitioning, I did take testosterone. I took it for like 3 years. And that's medication, right? You would think.
Yeah. So you had mentioned how that was sort of your first real trip into like medical stuff in your life.
Well, my I guess I don't really know what you mean by my first real trip into it because my dad so like basically if you're talking about my first real trip into medical stuff is very, very recently, to be honest. But like my dad, I do want to emphasize my dad, because he was so afraid of there being like a custody issue when I was growing up. If I had a cold for more than a few days, he took me to the doctor.
Right.
So I went to the doctor pretty regularly, to our family doctor on his end of the family.
Yeah.
So there was medical intervention for me. It just wasn't pain meds. And I mean, I would have earaches, and I know that I had earaches as a baby that he would take me to the hospital for. But when I was like in high school and I had these earaches, I had to just lay on the couch, let the water drain out, and just try not to cry really
Suffer.
hard. Just like
Yeah.
in a lot of pain, a
Yeah.
lot of pain, like 10 out of 10, like pain. When they could have probably just taken me to the ER, got me some antibiotics, pain medication, and done. So I guess you could consider me transitioning being my first like intro to the medical world, but like I was already introduced to the medical world before that because of that. But yeah, I mean, my stepdad did make a point in saying, so like, what about like transitioning? Like, what, like your mom? Like, what about like the basically like the medication, like the hormones? And I hadn't even thought of it like that. And I honestly don't think she did either.
Yeah.
Because she is very much LGBT friendly. My older sister is a lesbian. She is married to a woman. She it, yeah, she is very pro. Like she is waving that flag, waving all the flags for everyone, basically. Like she is not at all like she is. So I don't even know if she would have considered that medical intervention or not, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I was
Maybe
on
she did.
testosterone, and she did take me to Planned Parenthood in Lincoln to get my first injection. And like I was the one who's supposed to be doing it and stuff, and like and I oh, by the way, that is terrifying as hell. Like inject yourself with like a needle like this long, and then telling
Yeah.
you to put like this much in. It's like, how do I know? And you get it figured out. You get it figured out, and you like switch legs and stuff. And that was honestly, that was where I felt the most me in my life. So there's that. Um, and then, but as far as like later on the medical world stuff on my end, see, that's where the adult trauma comes in, especially with my mom. Not just because my mom's passing, but because of the confusing crap between me and her. So throughout my adulthood, especially more recently, when I've had a lot of issues come up in the last like year or two, I've had issue after issue after issue after issue come up, and I'm still working through it. My diagnoses are I'm pre-diabetic, I have fibromyalgia, and I have bipolar 2 disorder. Those are my diagnoses. Oh, and I have like really bad anxiety, but that's the anxiety part is from my mom's passing. But I've had anxiety my whole life, and I've had depression issues my whole life. But so basically, my mom like would ask me like like how I was doing, like whether it be mentally or physically or whatever, and like and she knew I had a therapist that I see every single week. And by the way, I'm pretty sure you're gonna watch this, so hi Wendy. Um, but love her to death. She was amazing. She is absolutely amazing. She's an artist and everything. She's amazing. Um, and so like my mom would ask about like medical things on my end, and I can't quite remember exactly what these medical things were per se, but I do know that she would ask like about like how I was doing that day, and then she'd ask, oh well, because at this point she knows I'm going to the doctor. She doesn't care, right? She does not care that I'm going to the doctor. Okay, cool. But then she'd be like, okay, so like what's going on? And the second I was like, well, they took blood work. Nope, I don't want to hear about that.
Wow.
Okay, well, that's an inherent part of what's going on. Or like, well, what's going on? Okay, well, I have this doctor visit at this point. I don't want to hear about it. Okay, well then how do I talk to you about it?
Yeah.
I don't know what information you want from me, mom. And so that's where I start getting kind of frustrated at this whole thing, because it's like you want to hear my medical info, you want to hear how I'm doing. I'm trying to tell you how I'm doing, and then you like coming off like, nope. I'm like, then how the hell do I tell you how I'm doing? Riddle me that. Um, so yeah, that was the whole thing, and then yeah, I think this is where we get into the whole my mom and my aunt kind of thing. My aunt is still around. Sarah, your mom has not just randomly passed on. We would have I would have alerted you like right now if that would have happened, because she is still around. I saw her like yesterday. I'm really close to my aunt now, and that's amazing. Um, I actually have kind of like a different experience with her, because my mom was very much like, if you said the wrong thing, then like I was in trouble. And like, it's like, okay, that's weird. Whereas my aunt, I can be a little sassy with her, and it's kind of nice. I'd be like, you know what? No. And she's like, okay, or whatever. And it's like, it's like,
The
it's
joy of
awesome.
the aunt. Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. But so on so the whole Christian Science death thing. So what had happened was, and right now it's not 18 months ago, but as of June 9th, 2024, it would have been roughly 18 months ago. That okay, so for the past 10 years, my mom looked like, and my dad married her when she was in her, I think, 50s or something. So I'm pretty sure you can't have children at that point, and she definitely couldn't have children then. But she looked pregnant with what I would call quadruplets gradually over time. And I thought, oh well, everyone comes in and like, still my own ignorance. Everyone's body comes in everyone's different shapes and sizes. And this is where Sarah's video, when she was like, hey, like my older sister was like, hey, you need to get medical. Hey, I'm not saying that. One, because I know that she would like be like, and then two, because I'm like, well, all bodies come in different shapes and sizes. I'm still ignorant about it, right? And she ended up having and this is going to be a complete repeat. She ended up having a 100, and I was told that it was a 120-pound tumor. Sarah's video said it's a 127-pound tumor. She is closer to my older sister than I am. So I'm going to say it was a 127-pound tumor. And she was like her body shape afterwards was basically like mine, like this. But she was like stupid, like pregnant with like 4 children, it looked like.
For a long time.
For a decade. Well, it built up. It built up. And I do know around 2017, I want to say, is when I had a boyfriend who turned into a fiance at the time, who noticed it, and I was like, wow, my mom looks pregnant. Why is she like pregnant? That's weird. Well, all bodies come in different shapes and sizes. And she was telling me that like her and Allie were doing, her and my older sister were doing like Weight Watchers and like all these things. And it's like, but the thing is when you're overweight, it's in your face, it's in your arms, it's in your legs, it's everywhere. It's not just in your gut.
Yeah.
It is everywhere. But my thing is, all bodies come in different sizes. So anyway, she has this tumor removed. And
how
at
did
that
she
point,
how did she end up getting any kind of medical? Did somebody insist she
oh, right,
did, or?
yeah, sorry. Again, this is going to be, so all of this, if you've seen episode 16, I believe is what it is, all this is going to be a repeat, but a different version of the repeat. So basically, I was told, and I can't remember exactly because this was just about, we're going on like 2 years ago or something like that. If we're past that, I don't know. This is a while ago, really. But my mom eventually could not move at all. Like, I think she was like stuck in bed, from what I understand. My dad was so kind and like helping her with her mobility. She did have really bad mobility issues, like, and I thought it was fine and dandy, all body shapes and sizes. But like my dad, like when we were, like for instance, like when me, her, and I can't remember the timeline, but I want to say it was, I don't know, me, her, and a partner. I can't remember things right now. It's fine. It doesn't really matter, time's sake. We went to a like sushi place, and she got dropped off at the door. Like every single time she would be somewhere, she would get dropped off at the door so that she wouldn't have to do a lot of walking, because it was hard for her to move. She would like waddle. It was hard for her to move, and she was gigantic. And so basically, what I was told is that like, I think I might have been given some type of warning of like, hey, this is getting kind of bad, or I don't know. Anyway, I was told, okay, so, oh yeah. No, I do remember it. I do remember like my dad basically saying, hey, like this is getting kind of bad. Allie and her sisters are like making these decisions, and I'm like, why am I not involved in this? For one, like she's my mom too, not just hers. But basically, by what my dad told me is that he had to call 911. They had an ambulance come out because he couldn't move her, and they had to have her taken out on stretchers. Sarah mentions that there were multiple men, which, by the way, for anyone who hasn't had 911 call on them, which I've had to call 911 on myself a number of times, there's always like 5 people. There's always a conglomerate of people. That's just, they work in teams. That's what they do. So they're and I'm not trying to like diss on Sarah for any like uh not being knowledgeable about stuff like that. It's just that that is normal, especially when you have someone who weighs what, like 300 something pounds probably at that point. So they took her, and at this point, I thought my mom was gonna die. That's when I thought she was gonna die. And I remember being like so like kind of like reactive and like not very good. I'm like, oh my god, like my mom's in the hospital, like she's gonna get the surgery, she's not gonna make it. I'm not gonna have a mom in a week. I'm not gonna have a mom in a week. Oh my god, I'm not gonna have a mom in a week. And like I visited her in the hospital. I think like pretty much all of, like everyone who was like relatively close to her did. I gave her this like rose, this pink rose that was a forever flower type of thing. I have her voicemail about it on my phone still. Yeah, I by the way, keep those voicemails because they come in handy later if you ever want to hear them again. Sad but true. And so basically, like she was in there, she was super high on medication, and I walked in there, and she recognized me and everything. She told me some story about after the surgery got done, she like told the nurse to have Captain Crunch come in and take care of her, and she was talking to my dad.
He was Captain Crunch.
She was super high on medication,
Yeah.
super high on medication, but she survived that, and we all thought she was gonna pass. To the point where like I was supposed to like go on like a vacation or whatever, and my dad were like, well, it doesn't matter. She passes now or she passes then. It's not gonna really matter. So I went on vacation, kind of worrying, like, oh my gosh, she's doing fine, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that happened. And then fast forward to June 9th. And so the last couple of months with her on the phone were kind of weird. But like for most of the part, it was a good conversation. The last conversation I had with her that I remember having was I called her and she was really tired and like overly tired. Like tired was not her. And this was like the very last conversation that I had. And basically, um, I called her and I, she was like, hey, Val's on her way, or her sister, my aunt, Sarah's mom. And she's like, I'm like, hey, are you okay? She's like, no. Talk to your dad. I have to go.
Wow.
And I don't think she meant it like that. I don't think she meant it like that at all. And I had asked my dad because she had trouble eating for like a couple of months. And you can't not eat for a couple of months. You not eat for a couple of months, you die. Like that's how the body works. You have to have nutrition. And so I kept on asking my dad, like, hey, how's she doing? Hey, how's she doing? She's doing just fine. Everyone, like, I was left in the dark completely. And I was like, hey, like, and then apparently she was like supposedly doing better for a little while. Like she was actually holding her food down or something. And so I was like optimistic. And then at some point I remember saying, hey, if my mom needs to go to the ER, take her to the ER because she cannot go forever. Like she is going to die. And I didn't think she was actually going to die. I did not think that at all. I was just saying, just for general information purposes, like you can't not eat, sorry, dust or whatever. You can't like not eat. Like she's got to go at some point. Well, I did not. I was not like clued in emotionally at all to this. I was still ignorant. And June 9th comes around, and my dad texts me, "Hey, are you and Alyssa home?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh." And because I was asking about any changes in this, because I'm like, she's gonna go to the hospital at some point, probably survive it, but gonna go to the hospital at some point. And I was like, hey, is there a change? And he's like, yes, but I'm not telling you over the phone. I'm telling you in person. And I'm like, I'm thinking my mom already died. But he told me, so I was like, hey, Alyssa, like my dad's coming over right now. And we all walked outside and talked outside, and basically she had cancer in the abdomen, but like it spread to her lungs really bad. It was like everywhere. And then he was like, okay, I'm gonna keep you updated because this is terminal. We probably have like a few months left with her. And in my mind, I'm thinking we have a couple weeks left at best.
Mm.
And so me and Alyssa were thinking we have a couple weeks left with her. My dad was thinking we have a few months left with her. So then I get another phone call, and I have the timestamps on my phone, but I don't need to go back and do all that. And then like, so a few hours later, so I remember, so I'm a gardener. I grow beans and stuff. There's this beautiful picture of like this bean flower that I have. And I will probably like, honestly, I need to print it out and frame it or something because it is a reminder of this day to a T. So like, I remember like looking at that flower while he's talking to me about all this. And he's like, yeah, it's terminal. Like, you gotta stay positive, blah, blah, like all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, like I'm staying as positive as I can at this point. And so and my sister Alyssa was behind me, and she's like, I am so sorry, like she's got this, she's a fighter, she's got this. And then he left. He's like, if I have any updates, I'll call you. And it was like, and this was on a Sunday, and I believe it was on a Sunday. And I know it was June 9th, whatever that was. I believe it was on a Sunday though. And a few hours later, I get a call, and I'm like, oh my God, no. And so I'm out there gardening, and my dad, I'm like, click, hello, yep. And he's like, okay, so the doctor just told me that she's probably not gonna make it through the night.
Wow.
And my interpretation of that is the doctor's trying to be nice, and we got hours. He's thinking we have till the morning. I'm thinking we have hours. This is a ticking time clock at this point. A ticking time clock. So I'm literally waiting for my mom to die on June 9th. The entire day, I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And bless her heart, like she didn't do it on purpose. I was told that like she was so tired that like when that they did tell her to get like a CT scan at some point in time, and she was just so exhausted from everything that she just didn't want to. And my dad said, I don't think she wanted to die. And she did sign over. She signed over like, hey, do everything you can to keep me alive. Everything you can to keep me alive. And I'm like, wait, what? And by the way, this was not on that phone call. This was in person. But like in person, like he said that. And I'm like, wait, like what? And he's like, yeah, I'm just as surprised as you are. And so like she like bailed on Christian Science at that point, apparently. Or
Mm.
like maybe not. Maybe she didn't internally. We will never, like, I'll never know. But like she basically signed paperwork that says, keep me alive, done.
Mm.
And my dad said that no one had ever talked about a DNR or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so and so then I don't know, like he had said later on he had I don't know if that was during that same phone call or during a later phone call, but he's like, okay, something did change, and we have to either use the paddles on her, which means that her heart is weaker and she suffers more, and she would be around, but she suffers more through this, or we pull the plug and let her go. And we wait. We wait until it's done. And I know I wouldn't have wanted her to suffer, but I wanted a last moment with my mom.
Yeah.
And my last moment with my mom, thank God, I did have a positive moment like a couple weeks prior to this, a time out gardening. And she was looking forward to trying my ripened like cucumbers or something. Never got that, but her sister did, or her sister tried something. I don't know, tomatoes. I know at the very least. And so that day, I'm just like sitting in the living room and like doing, just waiting for my mom to pass on. And I'm debating, do I go up there? Do I not? And my dad was like, she's not her. She has like she was on a like respirator, like she had a machine breathing for her, like she was not there. And he's like, she's not gonna recognize you, she's not gonna know who you are. And kind of when it came down to like the last second of like everything, I was just like, okay, I want to go in and see her. Like I want to do this like now. And I asked Alyssa, I'm like, hey, like, should I go in and see her? And she's like, I would not do that. I have had a family member do that and it traumatized them. Don't do that. But if you want to, I'm all for it. Let's go up there. And so I call my dad and I'm like, and this is like 8:30, 9 o'clock or something like that. And I'm like, hey, I want to come up there. Is there, can I come up there? Like, is that okay? Like, just to like see her one last time or whatever. And he's like, and this was when he was saying, I'll let you know when she passes on, kind of thing. And he's like, she died 5 minutes ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So on the one hand, I don't think she wanted to die a Christian Science death. I don't think that that was the case. I just think that she didn't know. I think that she thought she was doing what was best for her and that she didn't know any better. And that I truly do think that she was doing what she thought was best for her.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get pissed off and I'm like, why didn't you know the damn doctor? And then sometimes, like right now, I'm like, you thought you were doing what's best. Now, on Sarah's mom's end, I after that, I mean, they're 6 years apart, and I'm seeing her go through some health issues, not like a whole, not what I deem as like a whole lot, to be honest, but she is a diabetic, and she does take medications for it, so there is that. I don't know if she's like halfway bailed on it or not. I know that she hasn't completely bailed on it, because she's like, I know the truth, or I'm going to know my truth. And that's exactly what Sarah gets, is like their whole, like, basically bullshit is like, I'm going to know my truth, you can know your truth. And it's like, oh my God. And with Val, because she is the closest thing I had to my mom, I have now, like, kind of, I've gotten a lot closer to Sarah, my cousin. I've gotten a lot closer to my Aunt Val. And I don't like, I joke around, and I joke around with you, Sarah, and say, if we ever need to kidnap your mom and take her to the ER, we're gonna do it, even though that's not like allowed, and we're not gonna do that. But like, I mean, because she's going through some health issues too, and it's just bad. It's bad watching people go through these health issues. It's like, go to the doctor, they help you. I have health issues. I go to the doctor, and like I'm in like anywhere between like 5 out of 10 pain on like a daily, like on the 1 to 10 scale. Unless I'm taking Tylenol, I'm usually bouncing around between 7 to 10 on the pain scale every single day because I have fibromyalgia, and it just sucks. So, overall, my experience in Christian Science was, as a child, it was great. As an adult, not so much. And I just felt like my story was a bit different, because of the whole child part, and the whole, well, child and adult part, basically. And I took matters into my own hands. I had a very severe concussion, 2 years ago at this point, at least 2 years ago, going on 2.5 now. And I have falling issues. I can drive. I can drive perfectly fine, but standing, I don't know what it is about that, but I have falling issues. I'll just like fall. And I have just a ton of health issues. And I don't know if part of that is accidental medical neglect. I'm going to say accidental because my dad did step in at times. I don't know if part of that's just genetic. I know some of it is genetics. I don't know what's what, you know? And I'm glad that I'm 31, and I joke around that I feel like I'm in my 70s.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, it's crazy. And I'm glad that my aunt seems to be, because like she talked to me the other day about that she wants to go to physical therapy because her foot is super swollen because one foot is like twice the size of the other, and that's not okay. You have diabetes. What is going on with that? She wants to go to physical therapy, so that's something. She told me that she's gonna go to the eye doctor, so that's something. And that's, I guess, something that she was hesitant about for a while. And I'm like, hey, like if you need me, like literally, like I'm basically self-employed, and I'm an independent contractor. So if you need me at the drop of a hat, I can be there. Like if you need me to take you to the doctor, take you to the ER, call me. I'm gonna drop my crap and I'm gonna be right there because I'm not losing you and my mom. We're not going through this again. And
Yeah.
of course, you can't force them. You can't like force them. But I can be pretty persistent in saying, "Hey, I'm not losing you anytime soon if I can freaking help it." But she is on diabetic medication and she is taking that seriously. So who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when my mother was really declining, my sister and I often fantasized, slashed, plotted how to just sort of like kidnap her and take her to a doctor, you know.
Yeah, I
Obviously, we never
fantasize
did it,
that.
but
I definitely do
boy,
fantasize with like the idea of like me and Sarah like kidnapping her mom and like taking her to the ER and just like being like, oh, by the way, and like her like or like strapping her down or whatever. And you can't do that. It has to be consensual. You know, can't like
yeah,
admit one.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the sad thing is you really can't. You can't force somebody to get medical care if they don't want
Yeah,
it. And
I'm just I'm just
I'm
glad
all
that she.
about body autonomy, obviously. You know, I don't want people forcing me to do things with my body that I don't want to do. And
Fair enough
so
to a point.
it's such a complicated issue and I
Yeah,
do not have the answer. I really don't.
yeah, no one does. And to me, like bodily autonomy is one thing, but bodily autonomy to the destruction of yourself or someone else is different. And to me, it's like if you are actively dying and you care about those around you, or you are, like I hate to get into like trigger warnings, but if like someone's like, for instance, like suicidal, think about those around you. If you're, um, if you're going through some, real bad crap, think about those around you. At the same time, with cancer and with these like terminal illnesses, if you're just gonna sit there and suffer forever and you just want that suffering to be done, and no one wants to watch you go through it anyway, that's the hard part with my mom is you just gotta kind of pull the trigger at some point, pull the plug, not trigger, but like at a certain
Yeah.
point. And I think there's a balance to be had there. I don't think it's one or the other. I think bodily autonomy, yes, but also consider others. You know,
Yeah, I mean you would think, and again it's, I can't put myself into the mind of an elderly person.
neither
Um
can I. Yeah,
or a
obviously.
person who's like chronically ill and has a lot of pain. I mean, I know all of that changes
Oh,
your brain, you know what I mean? But as a
gotcha.
mother,
It
like I
does.
can't imagine putting my children through watching me suffer. Like right now, I
Yeah,
can't imagine making that choice. Like I would think that
yeah,
I would make myself uncomfortable to make them more comfortable. But it's
yeah. It
easy
might,
to
it
say that
might.
now because I'm not sick, you know what I mean?
Oh well, that's
And I'm
good.
younger. I'm not
Hot in the start.
75. I'm not 80. It's hard.
Well,
It's
and
hard.
you don't have to be 80 to be sick. I mean, I have chronic illnesses at 31. I have fibromyalgia. I have bipolar 2 disorder diagnosed. I am pre-diabetic. Um, and because of, yeah, and because of my mom's passing, instead of that, because I thought my mom's passing would create a depressive episode because I was like, oh, I'm going to be so depressed. Nope, created a manic episode instead. So, and severe anxiety issues. Like, I did not want to walk outside.
Mhm.
Like, I did not want to walk out the door. I was damn near agoraphobia. And
Yeah.
like, they're like, okay, anxiety meds, here you go. And thank God that worked. Um, Now I can, go about, it's been so June, July, September, October. Wait, no. June, July, September, October. I thought it's been 4 months. I'm missing August. June, July, August, September, October. I'm like, I'm missing my birthday month. Yeah, it's been 4 months and a few days. Or well, more than a few days. She passed away on the 9th. So it's been roughly 4 months since she's passed, and I'm telling you, it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
So what it gets better is, I guess, I'm more functional, but like internally it sucks. And I think that's why I think that's definitely why I'm gravitating more towards my Aunt Val and my cousin Sarah now.
Sure.
And honestly, blessing in disguise, because I wanted to be closer to them anyway. So blessing in disguise there.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like, I mean, your mother was so loving and caring, and you had such a lovely bond with her, and she was so supportive. And also I get the impression that her passing was really shocking. Like, it just wasn't expected. You really
Everyone.
thought,
I've confirmed
and
it
that
with
the
everyone.
shock of it all is extremely traumatizing too.
Yeah. No, the shock of it all was very, very traumatizing. Still is.
Yeah.
Don't know when that trauma is gonna go over, but I have therapy. I have a therapist, I have a psychiatrist. You're starting to break up a little bit, so I feel like this is probably a perfect time to start wrapping up, because your visuals are starting to slow down a little bit over there.
Okay. Well, I just want to say I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I lost my mom to this too, so I totally get it.
That.
Yeah.
From anyone, I appreciate it. Really.
Yeah. And I'm really happy that you shared your story with us today. And hopefully, somebody will feel less alone by hearing it. Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping. That's all I want. I want someone to feel less alone. Heck, I'm here for you. Like, I don't know if people comment, but in the comment section, like, I don't really interact online, but with this crap, I'm here for you. If you need someone to talk to, I'm always the person that's like, trauma dump on me, trauma dump on me, trauma dump on me.
Yeah, I can take it. Tell me.
Yeah, exactly. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. I really enjoyed this entire thing. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the entire thing. So I really, really appreciate being a part of your series. It's like kind of like an honor in my mind to be a part of it. So there's that. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and I wish you well. I wish you healing, and that's kind of a bad word to use. Sorry. I wish you, comfort. How about that?
Well, yeah, I guess
comfort is a good word.
Technically, healing is a trigger word, but healing in my mind is okay for me.
Yeah.
But it is a trigger word, I guess. But yeah, comfort and peace and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Take care.
And thank you so much for having me on this. I really, really appreciate being able to share my story. I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Leaving Christian Science. Disclaimer, I'm not an expert, I'm not a historian, I'm not a therapist, I'm just an ordinary, imperfect human who had the misfortune of being born into Christian Science. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the guests and do not necessarily represent those of the host. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to replace professional, medical, legal, or psychiatric advice.